Greetings, dear people of Trinity and beyond. I've missed you. It's been 2 weeks since I've offered a reflection, and I not only miss offering the reflection and looking around for something that inspires me, but also holding you all in my heart as I connect with you through the reflections. So it's good to be back and to connect with you today. It's Thursday, and I'm taping my reflection for tomorrow. And I want to start with a prayer that was written and offered by Nadia Bolz-Weber, who many of you know I love both because of what she says, but also because of how she says it. She speaks truth, and she does it with humor and truth-telling. So here goes. Dear God, everyone's exhausted right now. Parents, activists, cashiers, people who are just now actually learning about systemic racism, delivery drivers, the unemployed, the chronically sick, ER nurses, those who fear the police, the elderly, performers with no hope of any audience at any time soon, clergy, social workers, those who can't make their rent, and everyone who has to spray something down with disinfectant for the 1,000th time. Teach us to rest, Lord. Help us dial back our obsession with productivity. Raise up more helpers for those who are overextended, Lord. Stir up the desire to serve in those who only take. Remove barriers to napping. Quiet babies for an hour so those new mamas can sleep. Make us aware of any new bingeable Netflix shows that might just help. Give employers the will to grant extra paid mental health days. Quiet those voices that tell us we should be doing more right now, especially the ones that come from inside us. Teach us not to confuse respite with laziness. Increase our compassion for one another, and while you're at it, increase our compassion for ourselves. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. I knew that I was exhausted, which is a good thing because I can get to the point where I'm so physically and spiritually and emotionally tired that I don't even know I am. I also knew that I wasn't being productive because, as the prayer says, I am obsessed with being productive, especially in a time when I feel that there is such need everywhere to reach out and embody God's love in the world. I also knew that I wasn't being productive, and the last thing I needed to do was to put my head down and try harder day after day after day. And so I was invited to hike in Montana with two dear and deep friends, Becca Stevens and Tara Armstead, my know through Thistle Farms. And I said yes. And I ordered a face shield, and I wore a mask that says vote across it, and I wore gloves, and I braved empty airports and full airplanes and two flights from Missoula to spend 4 days hiking with Becca and Tara in Big Sky Country, in God's creation in Montana. On one of the days, when we were hiking, we designed a new trip, a place where we just were experimenting, hoping that it would work. We were dismayed that the trip to the parking lot took a lot longer than we had anticipated, and that edge was a precipice and something that encouraged us not to look down. But we did arrive at the parking lot, only to see in front of us our path, which led through a burn. As far as the eye could see, all that we could see were half-charred, half-burned trees lying horizontal on the path. And the path was exposed, so we could see that there was nothing but what we were seeing for as far as we could see. But we plunged ahead and walked. And as we walked, we began not only to delight in the big sky that is Montana, but in the incredible views far away of snow-covered granite mountains, but also to see more clearly what was around us and to notice the trees. And in the trees, how many of them contained what we learned were called burls. We called them knots. I went back home, Googled knots, and saw that they were called burls. And I also read that burls are caused by stress, either internal or external, on the life of the tree. But what we noticed was not only were the burls themselves beautifully knotted and complicated with twisted lines and different grains and colors, but that the trees rose up beyond and above those burls and survived and thrived and reached toward the sky. We also noticed that around all of these trees, there were tiny little green sprouts of hope. Sprouting, fragile, yes, hard to see, yes, but like the wildflowers that were everywhere, creating a feeling of hope in that space of desolation and desperation and sadness that is evoked by the charred remains of so many trees. We were reminded of Howard Thurman's quote about the growing edge. And when I returned home again, I Googled that quote. And I want to offer it to you now in the hopes that in your life, in this moment, in this time of struggle and turmoil, of knotted, anxious hearts and despair over the direction that the world is taking, there may be hope, there may be a call. So listen. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree, the roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against a time when there shall be new lives, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed. The upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men have lost their reason, the source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. The birth of a child, life's most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. And so I invite you, one and all, look well in your lives to the growing edge. And let us all say, Amen.